Top 5 Most Terrifying Natural Disasters in History. Number 5. Typhoon Tip. Pacific typhoons are generally more powerful than Atlantic hurricanes, because the former have much more water over which they can gather strength. On October 12, 1979, Tip made history with the lowest air pressure ever recorded at sea level on Earth, 870 bars. Standard sea level air pressure is 1013.25 bars. Hurricane Andrew only made it to 922 bars. Tip had 1-minute sustained winds of 190 miles per hour. It killed 99 people, a low number compared to some of the others on this list, but this must be placed in the perspective of a long warning before the typhoon strikes. 44 of the fatalities were fishermen in the open Pacific. Tip sank or grounded 8 ships. One of these was a giant freighter that the storm broke in half. Not only was it the strongest cyclone, it was also the largest ever recorded, half the size of the United States, excluding Alaska. Number 4. The Lake Nose Limok Eruption. Limok eruptions are one of the most bizarre natural disasters known. The criteria required for one to occur make them very rare. Lake Nose is in a very remote area of the Cameroonian jungle. It is not very large, only 1.2 miles by 0.75 miles, but it is quite deep, 682 feet. Under the bed, a magma chamber is leaking carbon dioxide into the water. This changes the water into carbonic acid. Carbon dioxide is 1.5 times denser than air, which is why it will not rise from the bottom of a lake, unless shoved up by another force. There are only 3 such lakes known on Earth. Number 3. The 1960 Chile Earthquake. The most powerful earthquake ever recorded struck near Valdivia, Chile on May 22, 1960, at 2:11 p.m. local time. As many as 6,000 people were killed. Many more would have been, had it not been for Chile's preparedness for earthquakes, and the remote location of the epicenter. Eyewitnesses reported that the entire world appeared as if God had seized one end of it like a rope, and slung it as hard as he could. 40% of the houses in Valdivia were razed to the ground. Cordon Col, a nearby active volcano, was ripped open and forced to erupt. The quake measured 9.5 in magnitude, and 35-foot-high waves were recorded 6,000 miles away. Of all the seismic energy of the 20th century, including the 2004 Indian Ocean quake, 25% was concentrated in the 1960 Chile quake. It caused 82-foot-high waves to travel down the Chilean coast. Hilo, Hawaii was destroyed. The quake possessed twice the surface energy yield the 2004 Indian Ocean quake, and equaled 178 billion tons of TNT. This would have powered the entire United States, at 2005 energy consumption levels, for 740 years. Number 2. The 2003 European heat wave. Europe is not accustomed to hot summers. Give them a break, hot summers almost never happen there. But in 2003, they got hit with one that would make the southeastern United States, or the Australian outback sit back and marvel. This lister is from North Carolina, where hot summers are expected and prepared for. In Europe, most of the homes built within the last 50 years before 2003 were not equipped with air conditioners, because none had ever been needed. Now, well over half of them have equipped themselves for the future. There were at least 14,802 deaths from the heat in France alone, most of them old people in nursing homes, or in single-family homes without the ability to cool off. The heat dried up most of Europe, and severe forest fires broke out in Portugal. Some 2,000 people died there from the heat. About 300 died in Germany, where the weather is usually very cold to delightfully mild, 141 in Spain, where the temperature actually gets into the 90s Fahrenheit once in a great while, 1,500 in the Netherlands. Multiple temperature records, having lasted since the 1700s, were broken, then broken again a week later, 106.7 Fahrenheit in Brno, Switzerland. This melted a lot of alpine glaciers into flash floods. 104.7 in Bavaria, Germany. 103 in Paris. The new record in Edinburgh, Scotland is now 91.2, which is unheard of there. The wine harvest came a month early to save the grapes. 75% of Ukraine's wheat crops were parched to death. Number 1. The Tunguska Explosion. On June 30, 1908, at about 7:14 a.m. local time, an asteroid or comet plummeted over the lower Tunguska River, in Krasnoyarsk, Russia, a remote area of Siberia, and detonated at an altitude of 3 to 6 miles. It exploded with the energy of the largest thermonuclear bomb the United States has ever tested, the Castle Bravo bomb, 10-15 megatons. This is 1/3 the power of the largest thermonuclear weapon ever detonated, the Tsar bomb. The airburst toppled about 80 million trees over 772 square miles of Siberian taiga, and would have registered at 5.0 on the Richter scale. Thankfully, no one was killed, because the nearest eyewitnesses were about 40 miles away from ground zero. They reported seeing a bright blue column of light streak across the sky, almost as bright as the sun, then a flash, and a report like artillery fire right beside them. For 100 miles around the epicenter, people were blown off their feet by the shockwave, their clothes were scorched off, windows were shattered, and trees seared to death and blown over. Iron locks were snapped off barn doors. This detonation was more than sufficient to incinerate the entire population of Japan, the São Paulo metropolitan area, the Buenos Aires metropolitan area, or the entire United States as New England megalopolis from Boston to Washington, D.C.